It's Spoilerin time. I'm Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood here, and Jeff Kanata is sticking around to join us. We are going to spoil in order The Shield, episode 1 of season 2, Wolfenstein, which Brian and Jeff have been playing a lot. Apparently has an amazing story. And then the penultimate episode of Cosmos and the most recent Game of Thrones.
Shall we begin with The Shield, sir? Rumor has it that it's the best show on television.
I've heard that. Jeff, do you agree?
Best show ever, The Shield.
Yeah, so the opener of season 2 kind of took me by surprise because Vic Mackey's back being a cop, and I kind of expected a little more dramatic, like he's been gone, which they did allude to. You do get that really great scenario where Shane's in charge and just screws everything up. And Vic has to come in and rescue them. Can't quite rescue them. Acevedo shows up. And then we have the Unholy Alliance begin to form. And that's really interesting to me.
So I'm going to step out of the way because I know that that everything I'm going to say about the show, Jeff also feels. Jeff, your witness.
Well, I'm just so happy, Tom. I'm so happy to just be near you having this experience because I would literally go to the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind people to wipe away my memory of The Shield just so I could rewatch it again fresh for the first time. Yeah, season 2 is where things really get real, and you're just on the cusp of it happening. So I'm
tell me this. One of the things that's been agonizing is I can't remember exactly how it went for me, but I got sucked in full stop to The Shield, and I can't remember when it happened. So as I listened to Tom sort of at first, like, treat it like homework or whatever, I don't know when he's supposed to be sucked all the way in. So because for The Wire, I hated the whole first season. And it was by the end, it stopped feeling like I was beating my head against the wall, and it's kind of got good going into the second season. Whereas The Shield, I don't remember that journey, and I don't know when he'll be fully addicted.
Well, I watched The Shield in a different era. It was pre-Breaking Bad. It was pre all these shows. Really, only The Sopranos was doing the interesting TV that we've come to know as the golden age of TV that we're in.
Sure.
So for me, the very first episode of The Shield, it got to the end, and what happens at the end of the first episode, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Where are we? What is this? I got to watch more of this show. So that happened to me. And I think that, watching it in today's context, crazy stuff like that is more commonplace. I think so. Perhaps you wouldn't get drawn in by that, but I would be shocked if you go through season 2 and you're not wanting to consume episodes. Like at each end of every episode, you'll be like, "Oh, I gotta watch the next one. Oh, I gotta watch the next one."
So season 2 for you was a high water mark.
Well, that already started happening to me in season 1, where I was like, "Ooh, I wish I had time to like go right into this next one right now."
Yeah.
And you're right, Jeff. At the end of that first episode, I could feel that difference. I could feel that, gosh, if this was 2002 right now, I would be like, how do you do that? That doesn't happen in television.
Right.
And it's not the same now. And so I kind of saw The Wires a little bit, not meaning to make a joke about The Wire, but this episode, I could tell that the necklacing of the rival gang members that happens was that kind of element that got me going a little bit more. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting because now they got to go down to Tijuana. And they're totally out of their depth. This is much more dangerous than anything they've ever done because it could cause an international incident. They're not supposed to be there at all. But it did have a little bit of that, but it's kind of like Gus Fring, like niggling me in the back, but not nearly as much. So it's starting to build enough familiarity with the characters and where their boundaries are that what else has happened in television is, I think, less affecting my perception of it.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm glad you're in because the other thing that The Shield does, and in the post Breaking Bad world, this also doesn't have as much novelty to it, but it's still wonderful when it happens, and that is nothing is forgotten. Every single thing that happens informs the thing that happens next, and you'll think things are forgotten, and then 2 seasons later it comes back, and you're like, oh my God, was that all just a setup for that? It's amazing that the way that works, and that inciting incident, that first thing that happens in that first episode, at the end of that first episode, is the absolute raison d'etre for the whole series. It carries through the entire journey of the series, and is what we need to find a resolution for.
I think that's what I adored so much about the series, is that it's so easy. And again, we're thinking about a more conventional time for television when you would do something in the first episode or in the first season and just drop it like, well, we got you now, and now it's 12 seasons of The Cosby Show. Right. Instead, they really do. Beginning, middle, and end. It all has a purpose, and it all follows.
Well, in the previously on The Shield, they gave you in essence the entire first season in summary.
Yeah.
But it clicked to me how many times we've seen the brother from Journeyman get it in the head previously on scenario. I was like, wow, they really show that a lot. So it makes sense to me. That's like, okay, yes, that is the story we're telling.
Yeah. That's great, man. Any comments going forward, Tom?
You know what? Probably as soon as I get done here, I'm going to go upstairs and watch the next
See,
episode.
this is what we do. Is we're like fluffers for the Shield. We get them all excited.
You get me all fired up.
Watches more. All right,
for the Shield.
Let's talk real quick about Wolfenstein. What was it? The New Order or Rise of the New Order or something?
New Order. Yeah.
How far into it are you right now? We're going to spoil some plot elements of the game.
I'm not terribly far. I've seen some major things that happen, but
I mean, you can spoiler stuff. We're in the spoilerin zone.
Oh, we're in
here.
the spoiler thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a very late title card in this game.
Oh my God, you're not kidding, right? The
Right.
whole opening, I was already enjoying the opening. I'm like, oh, what a great take on World War II, because you're in the middle of World War II, and there's the Greenhorn Kid and all this stuff. But then there's like a mech walking forward or robotic dogs and crap, and you're like, wow, that's different. And then spoiler alert for the opening, B.J. Blazkowicz takes shrapnel on the head and basically is kind of a vegetable in a home in Poland, and you watch as time-lapse photography depicts the passing in super speed of the next 14 years of his life. You see Nazis come in, take patients as prisoners, and disappear, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And by the time B.J. Blazkowicz really kind of like comes back and is present again, he sort of snaps in. The Nazi family is finally, or the Nazis have finally, like, they're done with this mom and pop asylum, and they just start putting bullets in heads, and then you snap to, and your Nazi fighting skills come back. I loved that opening.
Yeah, and this is an alternate history where the Nazis won. So that's why we can go 14 years and there's still Nazis hanging around. We're in an alternate universe where the Nazis won World War II,
right,
and have awesome sci-fi science to use.
Well, and also I loved the whole setting of it being in the 1960s. This alternate 1960s. So you'd have elements. It's like the music could be relevant. It's not. I don't know. Tell me how far you are in there.
Well, not very. I've gone past that a little ways, but I haven't gotten to where you get the cool sci-fi weapons, which I hear is where the game really picks up and gets cool. I'm still using sort of World War II era weapons, or not World War II, but just normal shooty guns, not like
assault rifles,
Tesla coils and stuff.
Right. Man, let me just say this going forward, and I'll not spoil stuff. I will say that the story is so utterly engaging that I adore it. Somehow they make me care about B.J. Blazkowicz. He's an interesting person with an interesting backstory. You see him have a deep relationship. Every time you go to one of the cinematics, these vignettes that they tell are adorable. The characters are believable. This strange upside-down world is utterly intoxicating to me. I utterly adore every second. All the folks who are watching me play through it live, and I'll do some more tonight, know that basically my entire playthrough experience has been giddiness over how neat the world is and how good the story is, followed by abject rage at flaws in the game design. There was a time that apparently I was able to pilot a mini sub into an area that I wasn't supposed to be able to get to. So I wasted 30 minutes not understanding why I couldn't get out onto what looked like a perfectly simple shelf here. And there was a mini boss that gave no, oftentimes in game design you could give clues like well, an energy weapon would work a lot better on this guy than a fragmentary one, but instead like the frag weapons are what he really seemed to respond to. So I wasted 30 minutes using shotguns and assault rifles on him when it turns out secretly I was supposed to use an energy weapon. And all of it boils down. I just feel like it didn't get play tested enough. I feel like the genius is in the story, and there are some flaws in the execution. However, I will say this: play it, and don't be afraid to. The moment you get frustrated, just look up a playthrough guide on the internet so you can get past that part, and I think you'll have a good time.
Cool. Yeah,
Cool-
it's
cool
it's
story,
really neat.
bro.
There's a well, we're not talking about games. I was gonna bring up a listen to DLC this week. I talk about a game that just came out that is like might be my game of the year already. Anyway,
Really?
come on.
Wait,
Yeah.
are you gonna leave me with that teaser?
It's called A Story of My Uncle. Story
Okay.
about my uncle.
All right,
It's me.
I will play it. That sounds awesome. All right, look, I know you got to go. You have a screening. Thank you so much for hanging
Yeah,
out with
I'm
us,
sorry.
Jeff. No worries, buddy.
Yeah, super fun.
Thanks
as
a lot,
always,
Jeff, man. It was
fellas.
great hanging with you.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Bye.
Finally, shedding that dead weight of Kanata.
Ooh,
Just you and me,
I
sir.
cannot wait to have him back.
All right, so which do you want to do next, Tom?
We'll do Cosmos next.
Okay.
I was talking a lot with Jenny Josephson about this today in the post show for DTNS because she had a really interesting reaction to this climate change episode where she's like, I agree with everything that they said, and I still felt preached at and didn't like it. I was prepared for the preachy nature of Cosmos that we have come to know over this course of this season to get really bad in a climate change episode. And I felt it was just at its normal level, which is not to say it was absent, but I felt like, okay, they could have taken a lot worse tactic with this. How did you feel?
Can I surprise you here, man?
Yeah, sure.
Loved it.
Really?
Loved it. I feel like it was measured. They stuck to the science. I felt like I am certain that on a personal level, both Neil deGrasse Tyson and Seth MacFarlane had a lot of things they wanted to say that they did not say. I thought that they did a great job of portraying Venus as an out of control. They set the stage. Like this
That was
is
a great choice as a benchmark to say, like, this is something that has nothing to do with humans, right?
Correct. And they even go so far, like as they're saying it, I'm like, oh, you are not gonna try to say we're gonna turn it into Venus. And I'm looking it up, and I find the Wikipedia article, and it says, there's no chance anthropogenic. All scientists agree that humans could never make us like Venus. And I'm like, yeah, you better not say it. And then the next words out of his mouth are, now there's no chance that humans could make a world like Venus. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'm cool. And I don't know how much of it is the fact that I just read, I want to say Lucky Planet, I believe is the title of the book. It's a scientific nonfiction book that makes the case that life on Earth is extraordinarily rare, and the only reason it happened is because we had an astonishing long temperate period, which in general planets don't seem to tend to have. They either spiral into Venus or they spiral into Mars. But the reason we have it is because we were lucky enough to get hit by a giant planetoid forming our moon, which slowed down the planet and created tides and backs away and acts as a gravitational shield and all these things. So, but there's a lot of talk about the importance of long-lived climate. I think it makes it compelling. The only thing that I wasn't crazy about, because personally I think everything is 100% right. I personally strongly believe that all signs indicate that we're trending towards decarbonizing. We are trending towards fixing the environment, and that it's. I understand the need to sensationalize. I understand the need to say we got a lot of work to do and all those things, but we're doing it, and unnecessary. I grew up with a lifetime of unnecessary fear and guilt over the threat of a nuclear holocaust, and I don't see the need to put that boogeyman on our children, given the fact that everything worked out fine for us on that one.
It's a little bit of the keeping the elephants away, right?
Sure.
Like it's difficult to wonder. It's not difficult to wonder. It's easy to wonder. It's difficult to say for sure that if we hadn't all fretted so much, would we have had a nuclear war? Right? It may be that universal human fear of what could happen that is the thing that kept it from happening. but there's no way of proving that. And so I think that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that plays into a lot of people's rhetoric, which is, aha, what I think happened is that we scared ourselves into stopping a nuclear war. So to be able to fix climate change, we need to scare everyone. And that's where the whole debate goes wrong.
It really is. You know what it is? It's like secular Catholic guilt. And I don't see the need for it, given the fact that again, by the numbers, by all measures, everything is getting better and we're getting smarter and that we're doing things more efficiently and we're using less carbon and we're smart enough to, to have proposals to fix this kind of stuff with carbon sinks and so on.
Now, there is, I do think that barring some future changes, we are risking raising the climate temperature in a way that will be detrimental to human life. I don't think we're at risk yet of eliminating ourselves, which is what some people say. And I do think that you may be right that we will come up with great solutions in the next few years that then will turn that tide back. And scientists say, well, we better fix it really quick or it's going to be hard to turn that tide back. And that's where the debate should happen, is like, how long do we give ourselves before it's too late? And there's less certainty, but there is certainty within a range. Like you can say, well, I think it's 2026, and another guy can say, I think it's 2046. But it's definitely, there's a range in there that we have to fix the problem by. I'll tell you what, the only thing that really bothered me about this particular episode was his emphasis on solar. And I know that was his entree into giving that great story about the guy from the Victorian age who had a solar had a solar power mock-up, and that World War I, kind of obliviated that, and it took a long time to come back. Everything I've read from reputable scientists is that with the technologies we have, solar and wind just can't replace everything. We need other advances, either within solar and wind or with other things. And I felt like they emphasized those too much.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I loved even that. I didn't even mind the fact that they snuck in a Seth MacFarlane Easter egg when they're at the World's Fair. Did you notice that there's like MacFarlane's pork tenderloins or something like that? Like it was clearly like a little wink to.
No, but I did see a Warner Brothers like pig snouts or something.
Yeah. I thought it was all good. I liked it a lot, and I thought it struck the right tone of measured caution, and it encouraged.
I think I was braced for something, and it didn't happen, and so I didn't let myself enjoy the episode the way I've normally let myself enjoy episodes, and that's partly just our culture is so divisive over this issue in its rhetoric. There was a really interesting Scientific American article showing that actually the only controversy around climate change, when you talk to people, more than 70% believe everything that scientists believe about climate change. They just don't think it's going to affect them.
Well, it's a difference between assessment and policy, and people lump it into one category, which I think is a tremendous mistake. I think for years people hid behind, no, there is not a problem, or and of course in the news cycles it's easiest to get one believer, one disbeliever, or whatever. I think thankfully that debate is going away, and instead the discussion is one of policy. And I think that there's in a world where you can believe that the singularity is near and that the advancement of sciences is happening faster and faster and faster, maybe there's a place for optimism about where we're all headed as well. And I felt like, back to this episode, I felt like Cosmos gave us opportunity to believe in that. You could believe in an optimistic world, which I think that it would have been an easy play for them to try to play the nuclear winter card that the original Cosmos did, which, and again, that had a lot more credibility when you were actually looking at fingers over buttons to destroy the planet. And I felt like they didn't. I felt like they were measured, and I liked it. I loved it. I loved this episode. I thought it was really well done.
Now, to the Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
An episode that really built linearly I felt. Like, I don't know, 20% in, I was like, well, this episode it seems a little slow. It doesn't seem like much has happened. And then I realized I was figuring we were about 40% in, and we were only 20% in. I just want to call out a couple of key elements that stick out in my mind. One is the brilliant performance of Sansa Stark and her testimony. And just that actor, that look told everything that scene needed.
It was great. It was a quiet admission, and this is so difficult to do. In a book, you get to control everything precisely from the mind of George R.R. Martin, but when you are actually shooting someone, to have a gifted actor, and I'll call her gifted, who can convey, I am broken on the inside, I understand this world that I'm in right now, I'm going to stake my claim and start playing this game as I'm learning from Peter Baelish.
And a character like Sansa, you can be forgiven for confusing the actor with the character and thinking, well, that actor, she's not that great. I mean, she's just kind of limp. It's like,
acting as somebody acting is amazing. It's and it conveys and it reads like I was like, oh wow, Sansa's an amazing actress. You know, I mean, I thought that was really great.
I loved the scene, even though I feel it's apocryphal, of Arya Stark just cackling with glee when they tell her that her aunt is dead.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, just like, and you know, she's also broken in her own unique way as well, you know, where she's just defeated. And we're also getting, I won't go into that book spoilers, but we're getting hints of what's to come with them. Do you know what I'm referencing?
With Arya?
Arya and the Hound. Yeah.
Right.
So loved all the Reek stuff. The Reeks, Theon, the guy who plays Theon Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy.
Lily Allen's brother.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Alfie Allen.
He is really selling it on there. That part where you watched him start to break down as he was pretending to be the man he was, I thought was astonishing. I thought it was really good.
100%. 3 broken characters, totally selling it. Those are the three parts I wanted to talk about for sure. Obviously, the battle at the end.
Wait, hold off on that. Hold off on that, because we do have the banishment, the exile of not Sir Barristan Selmy. Who am I thinking of?
Jorah.
Jorah Mormont. I think they did a great job timing everything, because they did such a good job of making it's so clear how deeply in love with Daenerys he has been over this season. You know, they've hinted at it before, but they directly showed it. And
Daenerys, as usual, was stellar in that moment.
Yes. Well, and also, you know, she's practically Ironborn. You know, I mean, she just has this steel will and will not compromise that I think is amazing. Not so much relevant in the book, that I also liked, was the Grey Worm, whoever that other chick is.
Oh yeah, with the interpreter.
Yeah,
I thought that was an interesting side story that is not essential, or unless they make it essential somehow, but very well told and very interesting.
Yeah, it also is a fascinating problem. Like, we have a bit of a compatibility issue.
And it's within a very tiny story. They wrestled with what is the nature of love in a crazy efficient way.
Yeah. No, okay, so let's get to the big deal. That battle, that whole everything, effing electric from beginning to end. Yes?
Yeah. The way I know it worked, because of course, having read the book, I knew what to expect, right?
Right.
And seeing how Oberyn doing all of his show-off moves, I'm like, okay, this might be a little over the top, but maybe it's necessary. And then at the end, Eileen goes, "Are they both dead?" And I'm like, yes, that is exactly the reaction you should have, is like, it can't be.
Right.
And the next thing she said is, so what happens to Tyrion? And of course, right after she says that, Tywin says, well, obviously I'm Tywin. I get to make up the rules, and boom, this means Tyrion's dead. No, Not going to have any question about it.
So good. There's a million things I want to say from this point forward that I will not. I adore
so many things, especially regarding Tyrion, right?
I absolutely adore the fact that they have done the impossible. They've threaded the stone needle, and they have gotten the show to a place where having read the books gives you no advantage over someone else. Like, or we'll say less advantages than you would ever imagine for this kind of
I
thing.
wouldn't even express it as advantage. It means having read the books does not give you more or less enjoyment. I'm enjoying these just as much as Eileen, who's never read the books.
Let's say this. Let's put it this way. We're at a point now where, having read the books, I am every bit as equipped to experience the exact same level of surprise as anyone else. And that's something I can't believe has happened. The brutality.
Well, with a few exceptions for events, but I know what you mean. Like, overall, you're like, there's some things in the offing.
But even like full on knowing how the battle was going to end in terms of who would be the victor, the brutality with which the mountain just crushes this. I mean, that was astonishing, right? I mean, it was horrifying.
Oh yeah, no, it was so well executed and so believable in the way, because knowing how it ends up with both of them dead, you're like, how are they going to pull this off where it makes sense? And they did. And which visually is a lot more difficult than just saying, like, well, he was kind of dying and bleeding out, but he had just enough to get back up. And, like, I'm not belittling George R. R. Martin's writing, but it's easier to convey that when you have lots of words.
Yeah, and I like the development of new little threads. I love the fact that everything's out of order, that we are with the Reek story, you're essentially caught all the way up. You are now at the end of the 5th book, whereas with other elements of the story,
he hasn't gone to his next destination.
Yeah, correct. But I mean, what I'm saying is,
because he's only in Dance with Dragons with Reek.
That's true. But you are on the most recent book with Reek's story.
Yeah,
and that's cool that they can make that happen. Continues to be the best show on television. Maybe one of the best
testament
shows.
For why spoilers don't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm keeping in mind, like, I wish Jeff was there to have that debate with you, because I'm slowly being seduced by Jeff's whole don't even watch trailers.
You've always been a little more that, like, we had the argument of, like, me saying, like, even knowing the end, you can still enjoy the story. Spoilers don't matter. And you've taken the much more reasonable, I think, tactic of, like, well, they can ruin things for you. I think that it's all about how the story is told is what I enjoy the most. And so the events and the surprises are fun, but it's not the most important to me. Whereas I think what Jeff's saying, perfectly defensible, is for him, being surprised and not knowing what's happening is what he enjoys the most, is seeing that story unfold.
Yeah. I guess weirdly, I'm in the position of those parents who refuse to look at the sonogram and just are like, I want to be surprised. I want to wrap my own present for birthday.
And I think that, again, I don't think either way is wrong. It's all a matter of what you like. It's like saying, I like cherry and I like vanilla ice cream. You're wrong. No, you're not. You just like what you like.
No, that's true. That's true. Wow, there's all kinds of sexual preferences.
I like eating ice cream with a fork. What, are you crazy?
I feel like I'm only going to get in trouble if we keep talking.
Fork
hey, man,
this.
Thanks to everybody hanging around for Spoilerin time. We're going to watch I guess the last episode of Cosmos next week. After that, we'll start on Silicon Valley, and we'll watch the whole thing 2 weeks from now, and that'll be just in time for the big Game of Thrones finale, where I believe we have Justin Robert Young booked for that, right?
Wait, you're saying we're going to watch all of Silicon Valley, the entire season, in 1 week? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Well, what is it, like 10 episodes? We could do that. 8? It's only 8 episodes, and you've already seen some of them. Maybe I'll watch the first 4. I'll watch the first 4, and then we'll split it up.
Figure it out. No, we don't have Justin Robert Young till June 16th.
Which I believe is the last...
is that the finale?
2 weeks from now, I believe, is the finale, if I'm correct.
All right. Cool.
It's a great phrase, by the way. Just say whatever you want and say, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the moon...
If I'm not mistaken, the Earth is at the center of the universe.
Which is accurate. This is an accurate statement.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I am mistaken. And that's the end of spoilers.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, I'm a billionaire.
Yeah. Unless I'm wrong, that's the end of this episode.
So long, guys.